The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I've rang up Mendon all, he said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has to. He is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-Viv.
No, my life from Rashad Mendon.
Right, you guys, I'm a tag jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. You had proper newsreader audio talking there, just as me and Chris are having a nice chat, but it is another episode of the LOC Report. We are here to talk to you about fantasy football and not the random topics we were just talking about. And as you can see, Chris is in the room today. We're having Chris in the room. How's it going, Chris?
Absolutely, I'm thrilled to be in the room, to be honest. Today, this is quite the thing. It's quite the thing. You know, we can actually bounce off each other rather than just like, hang on, what's he saying?
Yeah, it is. There is definitely more challenges to doing the online version. Not only so much that Chris is the true expert in the room because he doesn't know when any of the jingles are going to hit or anything. So he can't even see me normally, so he completely has to go off of audio cues and nothing else. So you are the true hero of the LOC Report, Chris. That's why you have the Hall of Fame banner in your house.
Well, indeed. Displayed with pride, may I say.
Indeed. And talking about pride, we have some proud teams in the LOC at the moment. We'll get to it in a second because we're about to go through all the recaps and everything for you. So we've obviously got a couple of weeks in the books now. We're starting to get into the swing of the season. Obviously, we have a raft of injuries. Feels like we've had a season's worth of those already. So we'll get straight into it with the week one recaps. And to do that, we need the jingle. That's the jingle. There you go. Because we don't do the we don't. Yeah, Chris can hear it. It's great. It's long enough. We'll start off with last week's marquee matchup, which was the Dream Team against Pakistan. So these featured two 1-0 teams. The Dream Team were obviously the week one high scorers. Pat had a bit of a low week one, but he obviously wasn't alone in that regard. And as you can see here, Pat's score massively improved, and Viv's went the other way. It's actually a tale of 2 weeks for these two, as Pat took this one 100 to 74. So Pat moves to 2-0. Viv falls to 1-1, and the history all time of this matchup now gets a bit narrow. This is we all know about Ben's absolute thrashing of me, but Pakistan Dream Team, it was a very heavily skewed one in favour of Viv that was 9-2, but obviously Pat gets one back and makes it a little closer at 9-3. So we'll start off with Viv talking points as we'll try and do a bit more of the condensed format. Better days are ahead for Viv, I think it's fair to say. Chris, do you agree?
This is a theme we're going to come to quite a lot in today's podcast, which is, and it's going to come out, get the klaxon ready, because it's the first time I'm going to mention it this year. Boom and bust teams. Boom and bust teams. There's a lot of boom and bust teams this week. And we're talking about boom and bust. Well, Viv was boom week one. He is very much a bust week two. Now, you know, for reasons that are a little bit strange to comprehend, I think that I think he's got a lot of teams that are going to be hot and cold. Yeah. You look at the Jags, you look at the Falcons, you look at the Jets particularly now, and that 49ers D, which is either going to be excellent, or it's just going to be middle of the road fantasy wise. Yeah. It's that explains kind of the variances this week. Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the talking points that I jotted down here for this one is no way his running backs combined for 10 points again. You've got a room of Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, and even the Tyler Algier obviously isn't the 1A back in that. They're still a very run-heavy offense. He obviously had a nice week one. That was part of the downfall there. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And we didn't see Tyreek go absolutely crazy this week. No, very much shut down by Bill. Bill knows if Bill knows one thing, it's about how to win and how to play defense. Yeah. You look at that. Plus, you look on the bench as well, and you see two receivers there. Pretty, again, middle of the road offense in the Washington Commanders. But obviously, McLaurin's an excellent receiver in any other offense, and he scores good points. And Gabe Davis, who scores good points out of nowhere. So, I don't think there's a case to play either of those guys in this game. However, there was that path there to be able to score. But for Pat, we spoke last week.
He's got a spicy team.
Absolutely, about where his upside is. And you see Kenneth Walker doing much better this week. Justin Jefferson doing what he does. Spot start Jared Goff, fair play, brought him in. Wasn't proud enough to say that he's not going to change his quarterback. So those were the real foundations. And then you look on the bench as well. And you see. So you got Moss. You've still got Najee Harris there in his for a first round pick who's down on the bench. Alvin Kamara still to come back, so there's lots to look forward to.
He's been quite busy on the waiver already, and some nice later draft picks like Zay Flowers, Josh Kelly. It didn't quite work out that week, but he was playing the Tennessee defense, which is obviously very stout against running backs. Zach Moss as well, a nice cheeky ad that obviously we don't know what's going to happen when Jonathan Taylor comes back, but there's definitely a lot to like from Pat, and obviously a much improved week from week one. Just going back to what you said about Viv as well, I kind of noted down that you can kind of see Viv maybe being a bit of a trap team, one of these teams that absolutely has the upside to have a week like they did in week one, but like you say, just having some slightly inconsistent offenses, and these kind of days will probably happen, but you take it. So that was the marquee matchup last week. In terms of pick'ems, so we both picked the dream team for this one, Chris.
We look silly.
And we do look silly, and I have now got ahead of things, and we have some jingles, so we've got the old, if it's going to play here, there we go.
There we go. That explains that. So we're 0 for 2 so far.
Yep. So on this weekend, you haven't seen the title of the episode, but don't take your gambling advice from us as the episode because we'll see.
To anyone who asked questions last week, please come back.
Well, our advice there might have been okay, but with the pick'ems, we'll see in a bit, not so much. So we'll go to the next game here as well. Well, by the way, we got this one right though, so we're back on the board now. We both picked Benicestis to win against Bucking the Trend. I think. Both these teams started 0-1 as well, so obviously looking to get their first win on the board. Benicestis has a nice day, 110 to 88. Again, Mike's had a fairly solid day, but obviously, still not getting that first win. And in the history of the matchup, Benicestis are now, where are Mike's team? Why can I Bucking the Trend? They are 3-4, so narrows the series a little bit. So what I noted down for this game, why do I get the sense when I look at Mike's team that it's just going to be one of those teams, and we have them every year, where there's definitely nice elements there, but it never quite all comes together in the same week, and they just keep piling up the losses because they get unfortunate with who they play. That feels like Mike's team.
I think so, and I'd say he's the highest points against through these 2 weeks. So it's not all his fault. There are some teams out there that have scored similar points with wins on the board, but you certainly look at that and go, well, Saquon and Devonta Smith have done really, really well there, but Saquon's made of glass, as we know, and obviously isn't around this week.
No.
And then you've got some spotty play from guys like Tua, who went to New England, difficult places we said to go and score points. That won't be the case every week.
No.
But again, just dodgy offenses. Godwin, Jacobs, even Pittman, who, let's be honest, that Indy offense might be a little bit better this week, but Anthony Richardson's in. Looks like they're going to run all the time. You're right. There's an inconsistency there, and then you look at the bench, and there's just not a lot behind it. While you look at Benicestis, and I think we saw earlier on in the season that this team had quite a well-rounded team to start with, and then added Nakua, who's going to be looks like a pretty consistent presence throughout the course of the year. That team there, I think, is quite scary, and there's a significant upside plus what there is on the bench as well. And there's still 50 points on that bench that hasn't been put there. So it's a team that should be absolutely. And one that we should expect from Benicestis. They always put together a solid.
I think so.
Unit.
Yeah, obviously got a bit unlucky last year. Obviously the most wins by a team ever and didn't make the playoffs. This year they're obviously looking to correct that. A couple of big waiver acquisitions to begin with, like you say, but looking good measure for it so far. It's very much a tale of two different teams here. So we'll see what directions they go in, obviously, after this week. On to the next game then. So this was the Corona Bowl 14 rematch, obviously featuring Gridiron Gang against Ixan. I did win this one, which, as we know and we'll see in a second, does not happen very often. 93-87. My record against Ben was a whopping 6-16, so I brought it down to 10 at least.
Yeah.
Shot full of 10. I'm coming for you, Ben. I'm coming for you. There's some fun things about this. Once again, we both picked my team for this one, so we've kind of got back on the horse after the marquee matchup. We both got hideously wrong. We'll start off with Ben's side because, entering the week, when we were previewing it didn't look so bad for Ben. It actually got worse because he was without Jones, Eckler, and Christian Watson. I think I sent it to Ben. I can't remember if I dropped it into the committee chat and stuff. The Fantasy Pros at one point clocked me at something like an 80% win percentage, which is pretty rare.
Oh, yeah.
And to Ben's credit, as you can see by the scoring chart here, he was actually leading this game for a large portion of the time. And obviously going into the Monday night game, I nearly got screwed by a defense on Monday Night Football again because he had the Saints D. I can't remember what he was about 60. I think he needed 17 points from them to come back and get the win. So here we go again. So credit to Ben off the first hit because, despite missing 3 very key pieces to his team, it didn't miss a step. Obviously, Mike Evans, who he's had a good schedule to start. We'll see how permanent, how long it lasts, but it's a good start there. I thought I was going to be potentially the first team that was going to get screwed by injury guarding.
Yeah.
As we saw, Amari Cooper got injured in that Saturday night game. Saturday practice. And by the way, whenever does a player get injured in a Saturday practice or a late midweek practice and then still suit up for the game? That is practically unheard of.
Very, very rare.
So I thought I was going to get screwed on that, but luckily he came through and got basically the same points to outward it. So, it was an interesting one there. But I mean, if Ben keeps pulling rabbits out of the hat like that, you've got to wonder again: is he just going to be stronger and stronger as he goes?
Well, you think that may be the case, and you talk about the components that are missing. Well, the components that are there are Patrick Mahomes and Mike Evans, and for as long as you've got Mahomes, you're always going to get a solid foundation.
Yeah.
You just have to hope the skill players come behind, and obviously after that, once you have your 2 or 3 of your main skill guys go down, it's pretty hard to replace all of them. So to get to 86 points, I thought was a pretty decent feat. Obviously, grounded in those 2 guys, and Christian Kirk had a good day as well. But say for you, I think that it was always going to be a much more of a team performance. You still had Josh Allen. You still playing. What is it, Cape Vegas defense? You still had CMC, and we talked about Pacheco and Montgomery, how they had upside. Obviously, Pacheco had a pretty decent day on the ground, just without a touchdown to ice the cake. But in terms of yardage totals, it was excellent. So, and it could have been a lot higher had the Giants obviously not absolutely.
Yeah, the Giants
they're
sucked,
trash.
Oh my goodness!
Mate.
I didn't think. I saw a world where okay, maybe they're not gonna absolutely light up the Cardinals, but I mean they very nearly lost that game. If it wasn't for actually what was a pretty miraculous comeback, they would have lost that game, no doubt. Absolute garbage. And obviously Montgomery got injured in the game there as well. But I can't really pull the injury card given everything Ben went through last week.
No, absolutely. I think it would have been a plus 100-point performance with a defense that was not trash. Yeah,
completely. And then the only other point is Mattison. Obviously, he had another blowout per day. He's had a very hard start to the schedule wise. But I know they just traded for Cam Akers, and we'll come on to Cam Akers a little bit more later on. But I think he could still turn the corner for them because they showed commitment to him coming into the season. He's obviously been a guy that was in the building for a number of years. So I don't think they're all of a sudden just going to start to make that a split backfield necessarily. But anyway, Ben, he'll get back on the winning bus at some point. But I pick up my first win of the season after that. Obviously, hard to take week 1 loss. Next game, we've got Bedadnaders against Forge Flyers. So you're on deck here, Chris. And this is obviously the Founding Bowl. As we can see here, Ollie won this one 123 to 90 points. So he goes to 2-0. Meanwhile, you unfortunately dropped to 0-2. History of this matchup all time. So Bedadnaders, Ollie is now 12-8 against you, Chris. So it's a fairly even series. I actually locked your team in this one, Chris. So I get one of the old.
Oh dear.
So you also picked yourself, but it's not as severe as a lock. So I'll spare you the sound effect. Yeah, I mean, apparently injuries don't matter for Ollie because, again, we know he's obviously lost J.K. Dobbins and now he's lost Nick Chubb, but trots out with 123 points anyway. Collins looks legit. DeAndre Swift, obviously, with Kenneth Gainwell missing that game, he basically dominated the carries and everything. So, despite the injuries, and let's not forget the bench as well. He added Kyron Williams, who could well end up being one of the ads of the year. So it's looking good for Ollie.
It's looking extremely good for Ollie, and you're right. Yeah, he put in his team put in a great performance this week. Yeah, say a lot of guys who were, I would think, marginalised at the beginning of the season. It was a little bit polarising as to how they would go. But yeah, you're right. Collins and Swift, they're the star performers of the day. You expect Adams to do all right, and he did. Jalen Hurts is an excellent quarterback, and you expect to put those sort of fantasy numbers up. And you're right. The narrative on his team would be an awful lot worse had he not picked up Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
In wake of this Nick Chubb injury. So yeah, he'll keep going. But yeah, I didn't expect him to score 123 points. Bearing in mind the week previously wasn't that great for him.
Despite getting the win.
No, indeed. For me, I'm not actually too sad about 90 points out of that. I had Anthony Richardson for a quarter. He scored 17 points. So imagine what the other three quarters.
I was going to say this was going to be one of my talking points. So Anthony Richardson will be a really good fantasy quarterback for you if he could actually finish a game.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
I mean that would be great. So. We shall see. Calvin Ridley and Ayuk got shut down a little bit after strong week one, and then the running backs. Yeah, I was happy with Henry and Stevenson, and obviously the defense and special team. I think the Cowboys D are going to be a really big performer for me this year.
Trayvon Diggs going down with ACLs. They're still going to be a great unit, but it takes just a little bit of the shine.
I'm not fussed. They're still a legit unit. So. Look, I think for me, as long as I can keep pumping in, and obviously I've got 53 points on the bench, but one of that's.
I was going to say you're going for the record for worst coach score of all time.
I need to get rid of one quarterback on the bench, I think. So yeah, but having 90 points and scoring 100 and then 90 the next week. The way that we're set up, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm quite happy to lose every game this year and be the high scoring loser.
You're a harsh 0-2. Definitely out of it. You paid the high score in week one, didn't you? I think, and obviously you paid the high score this week as well. 2 weeks running, you've had it. So. Actually, no, sorry, Mike. Mike played, but
I played Ben, but
he still got a fairly good score in week one.
Yeah,
so.
It was still 113, I think it was. So difficult to defend against.
Absolutely. Tyler Lockett, though, he's got to be in your lineup going forward, I think. But I kind of see why you did it at the time, so it's fair enough.
Yeah, I feel a bit silly.
Seahawks are trash in week one, so
yeah. Wouldn't have made a difference. Thankfully, wouldn't have made a difference.
We've got Tom Terrence against Young Jedi next. So both of these teams were 0-2, both coming off a pretty disappointing week ones as well. Tom, however, Tom's Tyrants, completely different story. 127 points, and Ross put up a respectable 81 points there as well. So the history of this matchup all time now, Tom's Tyrants, who are down here, they are 8-6 against Ross's team, so building up a little bit of a lead there. Apparently the death of Tom's Tyrants was greatly exaggerated because after obviously having Cup being as announced as being put on IR before the season started and things, obviously having that terrible week one, suddenly came back and looked really good last week. If Burrow can get healthy, he had obviously a better day here in week two, which helped as well. But they could be another one of these sneaky good teams. And on the other side of the coin, apparently Garrett Wilson doesn't need a quarterback because he can just do ridiculous stuff.
Indeed. See, he's proven that he is legit. Again, absolute boom and bust team. On the day, it worked out well. I think you're right. I think this could be a reverse, is what we were saying earlier on, is that there's going to be weeks where this team hits at the absolute heights, and then there are teams where this team is going to be absolute trash. Yeah. Matchup dependent. And we saw Brian Robinson go off this week. For 27 points. We're not going to see that every week. Neither are we going to see the same like guys in there. You might see that with Cook, but Drake London's very, very...
Oh, yeah, Drake London's... I think the Robinson one, though, I think he's the RB2 so far, and Antonio Gibson has been an afterthought almost. Granted, they've been in games where Washington have been fairly competitive.
And they've played the Cardinals.
And Denver, which...
I don't buy this so far that the Commanders are that good. But yeah, he needs Burrow, Allen, and Garrett Wilson to be his anchor here, and hope that London, Cook and Robinson and whoever he brings in, because there are other guys on that bench there that did score double-digit points, can come in and be can be useful. As for Ross's team, well, I think this is quite flattering actually. The score.
Is this the first time the team has ever started 3 tight ends as well? Because he started Dion Jackson over. I obviously didn't have Kelsey. I think this might be the first time we've ever seen a team start 3 tight ends.
It's possible. We'll have to go back and through the annals of time on this one.
Well, it would have only been possible since Superflex. And I don't think we've ever seen a team, because you would need literally Kelsey and Andrews to probably want to even consider them.
I think Kelsey Andrews is a legit lineup.
It is.
No.
This team, it's not been a great start, but I don't think it's not a laughing stock team by any stretch.
Ross, you need a new quarterback, mate. Deshaun Watson looks
broken.
Trash.
That would help things.
He has gone.
Yeah.
But 81 points, not too bad, bearing in mind the personnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last game we have of last week then, it was a great score against UR Gold. So again, these both were going in with 1-0 records, so looking to stretch that to 2-0. That award goes to UR Gold, winning this one 107 to 68. So obviously this is Jeff's first time playing Ollie as well, so Ollie takes the lead in the matchups there, and obviously Jeff gets his first loss in the LOC. Taking a look down. So obviously after a dramatic week 1 win by Great Scott, suddenly this team looks in a bit of a different light. Now, obviously, Lawrence is definitely going to have better days. Chase has obviously had a slow start to the season as well. Obviously, Brown's had better days. Granted, he's injured, but you think Master Jeff Wilson's probably going to be coming back at some point. Can you keep up that pace? And then Gibbs obviously hasn't hit, and then there's not necessarily a lot else there. I know Rashad White had an okay day on the bench, but they've had 2 pretty plus matchups, and he's looked pretty ordinary. I don't know. Is there trouble brewing for Jeff?
I think there could be, in the sense that they've got to get those receivers going. You know, some Brown and Chase is absolute studs in there. Without some consistent play from Lawrence, obviously we saw that week 1 to an extent, but he was shut down in week 2 and just didn't really perform, and that's the problem you've got there with a team like Jacksonville, who are young and they are improving and they are emerging. They will have great weeks, but they will also be susceptible to that. As for UR Gold, I mean, the difference between the 2 teams really is touchdowns. And everybody there scored a touchdown or a 2-point, even the defense. Obviously, the receivers are the only exception to that. But they've got talent enough that won't be a problem going forward. So it looks for the first time in a while that UR Gold are absolutely.
This is with Justin Fields not playing well as well, and still 2-0.
Indeed, they've got playmakers everywhere.
Special teams has bailed them out a little bit this week, especially, and obviously
absolutely. And when you get a special teams week like that, it is excellent. But
AJ Brown will be better as well. Though, to be fair to him, he's again kind of like Chase. He's had a fairly slow start as well.
Yeah, that's right. I say as the season merges, he'll be fine. So I think as will Justin Fields, to be honest. But just needs some protection, man. I feel sorry for him.
No, definitely. So I didn't cover off the pick'ems either. So I picked Ross's team in the other matchup. You picked Tom's Torrance. We were split on that one, and then we both picked Jeff Scott in this one. So our record for the week wasn't great. So for the season, I'm 6-6 now. Or I think I started 4-2 last week, so that's slid back. And you're 5-7. You obviously had not a great week 1, so you had a better week 2. But still the negative. I don't believe you. I didn't note down. I don't think you used your lock last week.
I think I might have forgotten to use.
It's
my
fine.
lock,
It's okay. It's okay. It's fine.
Never mind.
We'll go on to now then. The league news with the week 1 recaps done. So to do that, obviously we need a jingle. And there it is. So looking at the news this week then, so we'll start off with the injuries. So we mentioned it. Nick Chubb was obviously the first one that I noted down because it was completely horrific, both in visually and obviously the impacts of it. So he is done for the season with the knee injury. Was on Bedetna's team, so it's a pretty big impact for Ollie there, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, massive. I mean, Sam, we talked about this, or at least we touched upon it earlier on. Had it have not been for that Kyron Williams pickup, I would say that Ollie's season would be in a little bit of disarray. But actually, it's worked out really rather well in terms of timing. You can just plug and play.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Chubb injury was horrendous.
We'll come on to something else in a second in the news bit, which has also helped his season. But yeah, no, that you're right. That knee injury was absolutely horrendous. And I saw a side-by-side image of the injury he suffered when he was at Georgia.
Yeah.
And the one he saw, and it's quite. It's haunting, really, because it's like the same injury but in reverse. Like the knee is going like inwards way when the one at Georgia, whereas this one it's obviously like the other way, and it's just it's the same knee. It's like, how does this guy have a leg left?
Awful.
Like terrible. Like, so yeah, and he's a good dude, Nick Chubb, who's obviously been a good player as well. So that's a shame. Saquon Barkley as well. So yeah, he suffered that ankle injury there last week as well. There's been a lot of weird reports about what injury that is. It does appear now it's a high ankle sprain. And we know how ankle sprains usually multi-week absences. Sometimes players never return from, so that's got to be a worry for Mike, isn't it? Especially when you're sitting out.
Yeah, massive worry for Mike, and say he's a massive component in that team. We saw he scored 20 plus points last week for him, kept him in the game. So yeah, and he hasn't really got anybody to replace him adequately.
He's got Matt Breida.
Adequately. Let's not forget the Giants absolutely suck ass. Yeah. So anyway, there you are. That's my interpretation of that. So for Mike, it's a season buster, I'm afraid.
Quite possibly. Yeah. And then the only other, I mean, there were obviously some more minor injuries, but this is just kind of the more major injury call out. So David Montgomery, this one, well, it's weird because it's not necessarily a major one as such, but it was enough for him to, the injury at the time was enough for him to get carted off the field. And when that happened, you're like, oh God, what was this? And he had like an ice pack on the knee, which was kind of odd because you don't really see that. And then the way, when you looked at what the injury the play he got injured on, it's one of those where the sort of guy had to hold his leg and he was kind of getting twisted around, so it was like, oh God, what the hell is this? So apparently it's just a thigh bruise, deep thigh bruise, could be out for a few weeks.
As you do. Well, there you go. That's the overreaction to injury of the week. So
he might even play this weekend because according to Dan Gamble, he's day today. So just amusing. We'll go into the transactions now then. So we led off last week with Kenneth Gaynor, who I added before the weeks even kicked off in week 1. We have another one here by Ollie, who before week 2 closed, because Deontay Johnson was put onto IR on Monday night before the Steelers game, Ollie shoved him on there, and as such added another player. And you know who we went and added, Chris? Only Nick Chubb's handcuff, Jerome Ford.
Yeah, Jerome Ford. Now, Jerome Ford went for a big game as well.
He did.
So after Chubb went off. So not only has he got Kyron Williams, he's also got Jerome Ford now as well. I mean, you know, I think that's the smart play for sure, because you know if you're the owner, then you're going to be looking out for the handcuff. But yeah, that's got legs. But you know that could be completely sniped by our mate, friend of the podcast.
Yeah,
somewhat Kareem Hunt.
He's no Rashad Mendenhall.
He's certainly no Rashad Mendenhall. Rashad Mendenhall is a local legend in this podcast, let me tell you. But yes, Kareem Hunt's been a friend to many in this league, and he could be back on the Browns very soon.
He's already been signed by the Browns.
Oh, there you go.
And Ollie's already picked up Kareem Hunt as well.
There you are.
He's just hoarding.
He's hoarding all of them. Oh,
you should get Pierre Strong while he's at it. So yeah, no, good ad by Ollie there, because when I woke up and was reading the news in the morning after the game, I was getting ready to load up a $50, $60 bid. I was messaging Ollie and he just messaged through, oh, I'm really glad I picked up Jerome Ford. I was like, wait, what? When did that happen? That's why you handcuff your RBs sometimes, folks.
Indeed.
So elsewhere, just some other interesting ones to call out. So you added Kirk Cousins, which wasn't necessarily that. I mean, Kirk Cousins, in terms of free agents, quarterbacks, solid. Probably, he arguably should have been on a roster anyway. Yeah. So good ad. But it was more the drop of Dak Prescott. And again, I understand why you've done it, because it was only really a mid-round draft pick, but one of the higher draft picks we've probably had so far that's dropped again quarterback. But just found it interesting.
Yeah,
$5 as well.
In the draft, I had bit of a coin toss between Prescott and Cousins, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then Cousins was the QB1 through 2 weeks, so let's just drop $5 on him.
They've shown no interest in running the ball.
Nope. Absolutely
just like last
zero.
Yep.
So whilst Dak is unfortunately going to get sniped by his defense and by his running back all year. So let's see how Cousins goes this week.
Yep. And the other one, interesting one I've put on here, there were obviously, you can see a fair few ads this week, but obviously we just try and focus in on the really juicy ones for one reason or another. So the other one I've dropped on here is Cam Akers added by Bucking the Trend for Jerick McKinnon for $7. So this is interesting for 2 reasons. So one, he was obviously dropped by me because he was on my team. We all know what happens. He's apparently the biggest fantasy troll. Sean McVay hates him for whatever reason. History repeated itself. Exact same thing. Starts week 1. For whatever reason in the game, Karen Williams obviously comes in and then he's a healthy scratch in week 2. And then obviously waivers went through. I just kind of done with him, so obviously dropped him 5th round pick. So the highest draft pick dropped so far outside of injuries, obviously. But Mike, apparently, he sees that trade to the Vikings and he's like, I want some of that $7. Thank you very much.
Well, it could be good, but it's going to be a messy backfield if that's the case, I think. So
this is the thing. I don't think there's a scenario because, like I said earlier, and they've kind of been quite public with this, and obviously this could change if Madison obviously struggles, but they've had 2 pretty hard matchups so far. They know what Madison is. They made a point of bringing... You're right there, Penny. They made a point of bringing him back. I think this is more of a depth thing because you kind of look at it and say, well, if Madison's struggling... They would have already turned in-house. They've got some rookies there that they could have tried.
Yeah.
If they're not happy to do that, that kind of says what they think about the people behind Madison more than necessarily Madison himself. So it's more of a depth thing. And obviously, yes, Cam Akers could work his way into a committee or whatever. But like you say, is he going to kind of do what he did last year down the stretch and have those multi-100-yard games and everything like that and have a really good end of the season? Probably not. But... Equally, obviously, Mike needs some players.
Absolutely. So. Roll the dice for $7. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. So, standing stats and milestones. So, the only milestone in terms of nice, neat round numbers and everything was Jeff obviously getting his first loss in the LOC. But beyond that, nothing else of interest. So, we'll go to the standings. So, Southampton division has 2 of the 2-0 teams in the league so far, and Your God and Pakistan in that order. Because we haven't had a divisional week yet, so that's why we have 2 undefeated teams sitting in that division. Then we've got Tom Sarrance at 1-1 and you in last place at the moment, 0-2, Chris. Then in the Portsmouth division, we've got the Dream Team at 1-1, as is Ixan, Benesestes, and Great Scott. It's a division full of 1-1, hey. So the leader on points only is Viv there. So that division could go anywhere at the moment. And then which division? Again, Ollie's leading that up, and he's currently the league leader. I think, the number 1 seed at 2-0. I'm at 1-1, right behind, and then Bucking the Trend and Young Jedi there at 0-2. The highest scorer so far is, I believe, is it Viv? At 202 points. Yeah, it is Viv. And then you can see, obviously Ben's not far behind, but obviously it's still fairly early days. You can see a fair number of high 190s there as well, so it's all fairly even. Looking at the breakdown, Ollie is sitting at the top of the pile so far, but again, there's nothing really too substantially different between all the teams at the moment because the best record is 14-8, so it's not strictly well beating, and obviously you go all the way down, and even though you go down to the 8th spot, and that's Mike at 11-11, which obviously isn't greatly too different. So
14-8 being 2-0, 0-2, that sucks. That is.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So Ollie's one of the 2-0 teams, 14-8, and then the other 2 are You Are Gold. And it's Pat Stan, isn't it? You Are Gold is 39. Pat is 8-14.
The Gypsy King this year. It's Pat so far. Hitching the wagon up.
Yeah. So if we go to the coach ranking, I sit at the top there at the moment with 3.8 through 2 weeks. There's some other fairly good results there as well. Ben, you can see 8.8. Mike at 10.6. Then you get the middle grounds. We expect some points in the middle. And then we get to the bottom here, Chris. Now, you're not the only one here because Viv and Ollie have 35 and 43.6 points, and then you have 71 points on your bench
only
through
71,
2 weeks.
Going well, I think. 71. Oh dear, never mind.
You're 0-2, but I to be honest, I think even with the optimal lineups, you probably
I wouldn't have won either way. I wouldn't have won.
And you've obviously still got fairly points, good points forward beyond that anyway. So, yeah, we won't go through the coach rank, the true ranking again because again it's fairly early. It's not really too telling at the moment. We do have some power rankings. We both, myself and Chris, dropped the ball last week in terms of writing the power rankings article, but Tom is back, so he's written it again for us this week. So at the bottom three will remain the same in Ross's team: Mike, Buck in the Trend, and Tom's Tyrants. Then in 9 we have Ben Estes, Ford Flyers. In 8 you've dropped down a few spots, somewhat harshly, even though I know your own too, but the team's been fine. Pat Stan still in 7, Great Scott down 3, so they're a fuller down there to 6. You are Gold up 4, so they're the biggest risers so far to 5. I'm still at 4, no change. Ixan's up 3 to 3. Dream Team's still holding it 2, and Badetne is still at the top of the pile as well. What do you make of the power rankings this week?
I thought I was unlucky, but I thought your dad was unlucky as well. I thought Ben Assessi is way better than 9th.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So yeah, we talk about the top. The top probably about right. I still think Badetne is an absolute boom and bust. I don't see him as being a strong power, but I think
got away with week 1
for sure.
Got away with,
but their ceiling is obviously very high. But there's going to be a few in there. Obviously, we saw Viv's team as well. Yeah. So Tom likes boom and bust teams. What can I say?
Yeah. Clearly.
He's one of them.
Indeed. So that is it for the in the news section. So we will go over to debate corner now, and to do that, obviously, we need Mr. John Burkell. Where are you, John?
Order.
Yep, there he is. Yeah, thank you, John. He's busy, helping Jeremy Hunt sort of try and find some tax cuts for people. Apparently, there are none. But businesses have been getting.
I think it's they can put them back up. Yeah. But we're not going to do that now because this post-Brexit low tax island that we're on. Anyway, we're not going to get political on this podcast.
Best stop.
It's not how we go.
Can get political on the debate corner of the week that John has kindly provided to us, however, which is we have 3-2-0 teams at the moment. We'll stick with the positive side of this week. So your goal, Pakistan and Badetnators. None of them perfect teams, I think it's fair to say. So the question is not, will one of them go perfect? Because no, definitely not.
Nobody will.
But slightly similar vein question, which 2-0 team will stay undefeated the longest?
Do you know what? The way that Pat's going this year in his gypsy wins, absolute gypsy wins, it's probably going to be him. But yeah, I think both You Are Gold and Badettas are obviously scoring really well. You Are Gold have been fortunate in the sense that they haven't been scored against yet. They're comfortably the lowest scorers in the league. As of Pakistan, so there's only a 1 point.
135, 136 points against. Outside of Tom's Tyrants, 151. You can see that, and Ben Assess is the next lowest, typically in the 180 range. But yeah, some teams in the 200s.
So those guys have scored. Have been scored against 100 points less than Mike and I, which seems a bit of a weird one. So I think Ollie's team would probably be ahead of that because he's been scored on not a lot, but also he has put up that big week last week. So yeah, there's a sign of things to come.
Podcast dog is stealing the show today.
Absolutely. There's a sign of things to come, then I guess it's him. But yeah, as soon as You Are Gold and Pakistan get found out and scored on, then they're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, none of these teams are perfect. I think out of the three of them, Ollie's team probably has the best, but he's had the most injuries there as well. So, so I think your goal, Pakistan, probably more likely to be found out quicker than not. I will also add from a divisional perspective, because these things matter. We haven't had the divisional games. It's an important point. I think Ollie's got the easier division. I don't think that's a controversial statement so far because my team's been consistent but not well beating, and then Mike's team's obviously on fumes after losing Barkley and not having a great start, and obviously the team of tight ends at the bottom there and Deshaun Watson, whereas Tom's Tyrants and your team especially have shown to you've actually both outscored both You Are Gold.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, definitely. So there you go. That's the big corner for this week. So we'll go on to the previews now. So on the docket, we have some points obviously because Thursday night game happened yesterday. So the games we have for this week are Gridiron Gang against Bucking the Trend, which is one of the Waypoint Bowls. Forward Flyers against UR Gold. Thomas Torrance against Pakistan. Ben Estes against Iksan. Great Scott, against the Dream Team. And then Bedednes against Young Jedi, which is a Founder Bowl. We go into the divisions this week, so these are the first divisional games. We don't have, I believe, a game where undefeated or no-win teams are playing each other. No, we don't think we do. But as the co-host, Chris, it is within your power to choose which of these games you want for the marquee matchup. Which direction would you like to go in?
I think in terms of pure competition, and yes, we know they have some bowl games this week, but I think in terms of pure competition, I want to see what I'm going to deem the Analytics Bowl, which is Ben Estes versus Iksan.
Yep, sure, there we go. So let me move this into the marquee matchup section on my notes then, and we will go into it. So with the marquee matchup this week, and of course we need the the Monday Night Football theme to do that. Bare Necessities take on Iksan here in week 3 in the marquee matchup. Both these teams 1-1, both former champions. Both have looked fairly good measures so far in the season. Only one is obviously going to leave this game with a winning record, and the projections have that one being Bare Necessities 106-94. And you can see already 19-0 lead, courtesy of Debo Samu in the Thursday night game. Looking down the lineups for Bare Necessities, I believe the lineup is unchanged, so they are going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Iksan, obviously still fairly injury beleaguered. They have made a couple of changes. Jacoby Myers comes into the lineup for Cortland Sutton, and Kendra Miller comes into the lineup for the player Kendrick Bourne. So he's going with 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time: Bare Necessities are 6-12 against Iksan.
Cool.
Owns the Stubbs, just loves playing a Stubbs, does Ben.
Absolutely.
So we don't do the condensed form on the previews. We like to do the previews in full earnest. So Chris, Ben is still a bit bruised and battered.
Yep.
Playing some interesting players, as we can say there. Does he have a chance? Bear in mind he's already in a 19-0 hole against Ben Necessities this week.
I think that it's going to be...
I can tell you this, not going to play on Eckler.
Absolutely right. So Eckler's not playing, Aaron Jones is questionable, and Christian Watson is questionable as well. So let's assume that none of them are going to play.
Let's go with that.
I think it's a reasonable assumption at the moment.
I'll do some Google.
At least none of them are going to... I think, Jones sort of semi-practiced today.
I think Watson was back again today as well. Yeah.
So if we're going to make the assumption that no one's going to play for now, and then if Christian Watson plays, he's coming in for Myers, obviously. Yeah, Mahomes is playing Chicago. I think that's going to be a pretty interesting one, especially at home. I think that the Bears are going to get absolutely dominated in that game, and Mahomes is going to have a field day. There's going to be big numbers. But Lamar's on the other side. He's at home playing Indy. I think he's going to see a lot of the ball. Obviously, Indy haven't got a quarterback. Well, they have got a quarterback, but it's Gardner Minshew. So he's going to see a lot of offense.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a really interesting battle there between the two quarterbacks. But I expect Mahomes to come out on top on that one because, as we've seen, Chicago been ripped apart by quarterbacks over the first 2 weeks. Then we look down the list a little bit and we see Evans playing Philly, not easy though. He's at home. Christian Kirk's playing Houston, where Trevor Lawrence has struggled in recent times. If Myers plays, playing Pittsburgh, who had an excellent defensive week last week, and he's still playing for the Raiders. Madison's been ineffective, and we have absolutely zero idea what to expect from Miller. Not a thing. Jordan Love's played really well over the past 2 weeks as well. You think Christian Watson coming in, he's going to see a bit of that coming in for Myers. But the Saints D, again, away from home in Green Bay, I wouldn't want to go with that either. The other side, as you said, 19 points already for Debo. You expect that against that trash Giants defense. If Nakua plays, again, it's a nice matchup for him. Should be a bit of a ding dong to and fro there with Cincinnati. And then the 3 running backs. I say Mixon in the same game. Javonte again in an offensive matchup there with Miami, and Bijan, who's looked absolutely incredible through 2 weeks. So can't go wrong with that. Plus the Bills D down there playing Washington. Yeah. They've really spotty. If you really wanted to change things up, then you'd see there, I suppose, Hawkinson's there.
Yeah,
Burks
maybe
there,
Gus Edwards.
You'd probably Gus maybe a bit of that. But yeah, Gus Edwards, because there's going to be plenty of offense. But I think the way that the team's set up there leads me to expect that Ben Necessity is probably going to win this game at a canter. Ben's got to tag on to the fact that Mahomes and one of his receivers has got to do something, and the fact that running back room is sketchy at best. So yeah, for me it's Ben Necessities by a distance.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm going Ben Necessities this week as well. With Ixan, as you say, it's got to be Mahomes having a good day. You kind of see sometimes in these really good matchups that, I mean, you felt it with Dak Prescott, that when such a blowout, if the quarterback isn't part of the party early, they miss out kind of completely, and that could absolutely happen with Mahomes potentially. Evans was obviously, as we saw last week, the kind of player that really pulled up Ixan's side as well. I mentioned that obviously had a really good schedule to begin with. Philadelphia, it's not necessarily a completely daunting matchup. They've got some injuries and things, and Baker, for what it's worth, does seem to have played well so far, but Ben's going to need both those guys to fire, and then some help from the supporting cast. And like you say, you just look at my dad's team, it's hard to... I've got nothing to add because it's just a fairly solid team. And if it comes through, yeah, they shouldn't have a problem winning it, I agree. So there you go for the marquee matchup. So we'll go on to the next game now, which features Great Scott against the Dream Team. Another couple of one-on-one teams here. Great Scott take on the Dream Team in the fiercely competitive Portsmouth division. In fact, all these teams, the other game was Portsmouth as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting what comes out of this week with these two as well. The Dream Team is projected to win this one 105-95 with 15 points on the board already, courtesy of the Niners defense. Obviously, no history in this matchup as well. First time for Jeff playing Viv. Looking down the lineup, so we'll start off on Great Scott's side of the board. So he, I believe, is unchanged at the moment, so still fielding the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Then on the other side of the board for Viv's team, the Dream Team, let's see here, Terry McLaurin comes into the lineup in favour of Tyler Algier. No further changes than that at the moment, so they are rocking the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and that is it for the preview then. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup here because both these teams had a subpar week 2 after a good week 1. Which of them do you think is most likely to come out on top here, Chris?
I like the fact that the Dream Team have gone all in this week. They're just going to play all their playmakers straight in there. 15 points on the ball already. Justin Herbert against Minnesota, I think that could be a pretty high candidate for a shootout this week. Yeah. Tyreek against Denver at home, much better. They always play better at home. I think Miami now. CD against Arizona trash. They've played 2 trash teams through 2 weeks. They're going to get decimated this week by the Cowboys. Absolutely no question about it. He's going to be a big part of that. And then McLaurin and Etienne, which are the question marks for me, I think, and Breece Hall, of course. I think on their day, absolutely right. And Buffalo have looked a little bit vulnerable through the first couple of weeks, but you can't really bet against them. I know that McLaurin's at home and he's got that big play advantage, but it's just going to get that down there. And Etienne, we might see a lot more of him because Lawrence has his troubles against the Texans. Yes, they've been playing at home as well, and that does go for something. And Etienne's that key playmaker on their team, but will he get the goal line stuff? Will he get the the valuable stuff for us in fantasy football? And then Breece Hall playing New England. We all know how much Bill hates the Jets. He'll go out their way to do all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. So yeah, these games are weird. Whenever they play each other, it's a weird game.
The over/under on this game, I think, is about 37 points as well. So it's it's not going to be a good game either.
No. I think it could be I think it's going to be a big defensive game. Yeah. This one.
Yeah.
On the other side, you can't knock the fact that Lawrence, Chase, and St. Brown should be absolutely walking some of these things. I think Lawrence is going to see a lot of offense, and I say it could be a bit of a to and fro game. But Chase and St. Brown again in good matchups for them at home, they should be capitalising on that. I don't know why we haven't seen so much of Chase this season, but he's definitely been zeroed in on by defences.
Yeah.
And you've seen that through other guys that have flourished. We saw T. Higgins go off last week for that very same reason. Do I like Mostert, Sanders and Gibbs? Well, I like Gibbs a bit more than I did last week, obviously with Montgomery being banged up. I hate Sanders against the Seahawks away, and Mostert against Denver. Well, it's shown that they're not afraid to run the ball with him, and for this week, you've got to take advantage, as you say, before it turns into a committee again. And say the defense once more play New England. That Jets defense is going to be here, there, and everywhere, I think. So who really knows? I think for me, the Dream Team have got a much more rounded team and should do better. I think quarterback-wise, I think Justin Herbert will fire in that matchup against the Vikings. And throughout the team there, we see Hill and Lamb. I think those three could probably carry him across. It doesn't really matter necessarily if anybody else has a down day.
Yeah.
He's already got 15 points from his defense. Yeah. It should be the Dream Team for me.
No, yeah, I think I agree. I think it should be the Dream Team as well. Like you say, that Chargers Minnesota game is going to be really interesting because both those teams 0-2. Both of them obviously were playoff teams last year, I think, weren't they? I'm pretty sure. The Vikings definitely were.
Was last year the year that Brandon Staley shit the bed?
Yeah. In the I can't remember.
In the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. So but it's going to be interesting on there. Hill obviously got shut down a little bit last week, as you said on the recap, but Bill Belichick, as you said, likes to take away a team's best opposing weapon. That's not going to happen against Denver. And then any one of the other players that lives there could go off. Not all of them are necessarily going to have a great day, but like you say, none of them could. Whereas on Jeff's side of the ball again, like you say, Lawrence not great last week. Obviously, Dream Team's got Etienne as well. That kind of offsets to a degree, I think, because he gets involved in the passing game. Chase, I think, kind of what you were saying. I wonder how healthy Burrow is with that calf. Because obviously there's been talk of potentially even shutting him down for a few weeks to get him healthy. And back when the calf injury happened, Chase even said in the preseason that they need to manage it carefully if they need to let Burrow sit for however many regular season games, so it's not a problem in the season. That's the right course of action. And are we kind of seeing maybe the impact of him maybe not coming back fully healthy and then re-injuring it? And so if we've got less than 100% Burrow and it's not working for Chase, it's not great. If Burrow sits and it's the backup, who is some guy who's I think thrown 2 passes in his entire NFL career, probably not good for Chase either. So it's a bit worrying. Say Brown, he's got turf toe, which is famously quite difficult for a receiver. I don't think it's necessarily a severe case of turf toe. There's talk of him having a plate in his shoe or something, so it's obviously not bending as much. But yeah, and then like you said, the running backs, it's not necessarily the most inspiring group. It's not bad. Must have benefited last week again from Belichick's game plan of take the passing game away and just let them run and try and make them win on that. Again, I don't think that's going to be the case against Denver. So yeah, Dream Team for me as well this week. And I will note down as such in the notes that we both picked the Dream Team. So injuries, I didn't cover the injury update on the last game either, so I'll dovetail back and do that. So for Great Scott, St. Brown, I think he is going to play, but like I say, he is going to be somewhat limited with that turf toe, or not necessarily at full powers. Zay Jones, I think he'll be okay to play. Not exactly sure what his issue is. Kadarius Toney, I think he's got a toe problem. I think he may have returned to practice today, but probably fairly questionable at the moment.
He'll be injured again next week.
Almost certainly. Breece Hall, his question was just there. They're obviously limiting his reps as much in his return from the knee injury he suffered last season. For Ben Assist, Puka Nacua again. He didn't practice yesterday because of the oblique injury, the same one that he didn't practice with to begin last week. So again, I think they're just managing that, so he should be okay. And then for Ben, how long have you got? Eckler, I'm pretty sure he's going to be out with his ankle injury. Watson it's looking more promising. They had a planned rest day after return to practice on Wednesday, so I think he will end up suiting up. Jones, I think, is still a bit more iffy though, so again, he's one to check. Come Sunday, we'll go on to the next game there, where we move on to the Winchester division now. League leading Badadnators at 2-0 take on one of the winless teams in the Young Jedi. I was wrong. We do have a Battle of the O's this week. The Founder Bowl as well. 0-2 Young Jedi Ross's team. And both are projected to keep going in the same direction. They're going in with Badadnators projected to win this one 89 to 85. Young Jedi does have 9 points on the board, courtesy of George Kittle from the Thursday night game. Looking down the lineup, so we'll start off with the detonators here. So Kyron Williams comes into the lineup, obviously, for Nick Chubb, who obviously suffered the injury. So he is rolling out the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Ross's team, let's see here. I don't believe Ross's team has changed, so he's still rolling with the 3 personnel, the old 3 tight end, 2 wide receiver formation.
Here we go.
That famous one. The history of this matchup all time. The detonators are 5-8 all time against Ross's team. There is no chance for an upset.
I agree.
This game is there. It's Ollie's, and I'm just going to go ahead and
there it is.
Lock it up right now.
Yeah,
we got the lock jingle too.
Absolutely no chance. Just look at what he's got. Hurts, Adams, Williams, Swift out of last week, Nico Collins, who's legit number 1, as you said, and Kyron Williams comes in. With the Chiefs D play in Chicago, there is no way that's going to beat Deshaun Watson, who does look a broken man, as you say.
Yeah.
So he's obviously being crushed under the weight of all that money they're paying him there. And after that,
he should get a masseuse for the stress.
He should. So, just don't touch it. Make sure it's male. Diggs. Diggs hasn't really fired through 2 weeks. Not gonna lie. T. Higgins went off last week, and with the same problems as you said. And then you got Andrews and Kelsey, who actually do have quite good matchups, and the Patriots D, who has equally good matchup. There's reason to suggest that Ross is going to have a good week, but there's no way he's beating Ollie in that. And the array of talent on display with the matchups that they're in, no chance.
No, I don't think we need to add much analysis here. I mean, Ross could have a decent day again, but the problem is he just does not have the same upside at the moment with compared to some of the other teams, especially going back to the Burrow issue with Higgins. As you say, Higgins had the nice game last week, but that's certainly nothing that can be counted on. Like you say, Kelsey should have a better day. It sounds like he's fully healthy now, obviously, but he needs to be part of that scoring party, before they presumably bench all their starters, because they'll probably be so far ahead in that game. So limited upside for Ross's team, whereas, like you say, Ollie's team just looks star-studded this week. He's got some nice matchups. There is some question marks. DeAndre Swift, the Bucks have looked pretty good so far, run D-wise, and Kenneth Gainwell's going to be back. We don't really know what that's going to look like.
But look on the bench what he could bring in.
Yeah.
He could bring in Kareem Hunt.
But
he could bring in
he
Ford.
He
could bring in Brandon Cooks.
He could, but at the moment he's starting DeAndre Swift.
That's true. That's true. I haven't got a problem with that. I think that DeAndre Swift is so talented that he can make it work. But the depth that Ollie's bench has is ridiculous.
No, you are right there. Ollie's going to find the points between all the players he's got there. Collins, again, could feast with garbage time and everything. And Kyron Williams, obviously, he's kind of the feature back at the moment. So, easy lock for me. And, obviously, you pick Ollie there as well. So,
absolutely.
We'll go on the next game then, which... by the way, Chiefs, you mentioned the Chiefs' defense. Ollie got him from me on the tiebreaker. We both bid 7 for them. But because I went for the kicker in the order, he got the tiebreaker because I already made the claim. We'll go on to the other Winchester Division game now then. Gridiron Gang take on Bucking the Trend. Gridiron Gang fresh off their first win of the season. Meanwhile, Mike's still looking for his first win. It may not come this week because the projections have Gridiron Gang taking this one 93-83, and Gridiron Gang already have 18 points on the board as well, courtesy of Mr. Christian McCaffrey. In terms of Gridiron Gang's lineup, at the moment the only change is that David Montgomery is dropped to the bench for Tutu Atwell, obviously due to his injury. So Gridiron Gang currently rolling out the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Bucking the Trend, DeAndre Hopkins comes into the lineup in favour of Saquon Barkley, obviously dealing with that injury. So Mike is rolling the 10 personnel this week, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. History of this matchup all time, Gridiron Gang are 0-5 5 against bucking the trend. Wow, I have never beaten Mike.
Wow.
Is that right? Have I done a typo there? Let's check. Mike, I did not realise that was a thing.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've never beaten Mike. He is 5-0 against me.
I think this might be the way to break it this week, I have to say. Yeah, your team is banged up. There's no question about that. But I think that there's going to be some guys that are going to pull through. Obviously, Cooper and Waddle are the two that you really want.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to play. And if they do, they're going to be focal points to that victory that I think you're probably going to get in this one, Nathan. I think you're probably going to break the 5-0 here.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we like Allen in that matchup. We like Cooper and Waddle. The fact that Tua's on the other side as well sort of negates his worth as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's all going in your favour. Don't really like Tutu Atwell, but we'll go with it. We'll go with it for now.
Hey, he's been underrated so far. I think he got 90 yards last week, and I think he had 100 and something in week 1.
He can continue to be underrated. I would say we're both in the Isaiah Pacheco fan club.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Provided he plays, I think that's going to be very, very decent.
No,
and then Seahawks at home versus Carolina.
Yeah,
bit of a walkover, to be honest.
The Red Rifle's back for Carolina because Bryce Young's not playing this week.
Well, even better because we know Andy Dalton does love an interception. So there we go. At the same time, on the other side. Yes, Godwin, Smith and Hopkins. Will they combine together and beat Christian McCaffrey 17.9? I don't know.
It's a tough call, isn't it?
Jacobs and Pittman I don't like either against either of those defenses, by the way. Hateful.
Yeah, we just saw Jacobs get absolutely erased by the Bills, so you think Pittsburgh probably going to try and do a fair... Well, they did just get shredded by Jerome Ford, so... Whatever that's worth.
Yeah. And Jacobs is better, but the Raiders are torrid. Just torrid.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of excellent things I can say about Mike's team, really. Yeah, even the Eagles versus Tampa, if he gets scored on, then whatever points that happens, then Godwin's going to get him anyway. So, your team for sure, mate. I think this is a pretty straightforward one to call.
I'm going with my team here as well. I've got my injury issues for sure. I'm not sure if Waddle's going to play. He did practice today, but supposedly still in the protocol, so unclear. If he doesn't play, I've got a bit of a decision of who to play because Montgomery probably not going to play, and then it's something between Gainwell, Rashawn Johnson, and Jackson Smith, even Jigba, or someone off the free agency, which may be the option. So, but like you say, beyond that, I've still got some guys that are in pretty good spots. Obviously, Josh Allen could have a decent day, nice defensive play there, and then on the other side, Devonta Smith had the nice week last week, but it feels like it's going to be a squeaky wheel game for AJ Brown at some point. We know that the Eagles don't put the ball in the air too often, and then it's hard to guess what's going to come from the rest of Mike's players there. And like you say, Tua. If Waddle plays that offsets it. If not, who knows? I'll go with my team there. Injury-wise, so Cooper's just been taken off the injury report, actually, so he's fine. Waddle's still in the concussion protocol, so we'll see on him. Pacheco, I suppose he had some sort of hamstring tightness or something. Didn't practice Wednesday, but has been back since. Montgomery, that deep thigh bruise, so I'd say he's probably not going to play this week, but it sounds like it's an outside chance. Gainwell, got so many injuries. He's got a come back from his rib issue, but he's been practicing as well, so he should play. Then on Mike's side of the board, breathe. Saquon Barkley obviously did not play with the high ankle sprain. Josh Reynolds, I think he might have a toe or something as well, but I think he'll be fine.
If Josh Reynolds is there, get him in. What are you doing?
Yeah,
just get him in.
He spent like $13 or $17 on him this week.
I didn't note it down. Michael Pittman's going to suck this week. Get him in now.
Baltimore don't really have a secondary, but get Gardner Minshew.
Man.
DeAndre Hopkins, he's obviously been a bit limited and stuff in practice with old age, so he's fine. And then Devonta Smith, he's been, I think he was limited to begin with. We got in practice with a couple of things, but I think he'll be fine as well. Next game then, which is Forge Flyers against You Are Gold. Oh, we already had that jingle. We're on this one. Forge Flyers take on Your Gold. I completely lied at the top because we do have a couple of O teams playing each other because Forge Flyers are 0-2, looking for their first win against the lossless You Are Gold team, and they are projected to get a loss here. Squad Flyers has this one, 91-87 according to the projections. In terms of lineups, Squad Flyers brings in Kirk Cousins in favour of Anthony Richardson, who's been ruled out with his concussion. In terms of other lineup changes,
Michael Thomas comes in.
I was going to say, I thought
for AJ Dillon.
For AJ Dillon, sure, yep. So you are rocking the 20 personnel with Chris, 2 running backs, 2 receivers. For you are gold, Russell Wilson's in at quarterback over Justin Fields. Wow. And elsewhere in the lineup, I think they are unchanged. So they are going with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers as well. History of this matchup all time. Forge Flyers are 5-3 against you are gold. So you have the advantage, Chris, in the history and the projections. Will it come through come Sunday?
I don't know how to make any sort of projections now about my team because they do tend to score reasonably well, and I think they will score reasonably well as well this week. I've put it together so there's going to be a lovely, consistent point scoring display from top to bottom, from Kirk Cousins in the shootout to the Cowboys D flattening Josh Stubbs and whoever it is that's protecting him and everybody else in between in Arizona. Look, I think for me, Stevenson and Henry are going to get the volume again.
Definitely, yeah.
That's for sure. The receivers I've got, so we saw Lockett finally. I say finally, is after a down week 1 and a concussion came back with a big score. I think playing at home against Carolina is a good bounce back from that as well. I think Ridley again is going to play a much less established defensive unit in Houston against Houston, obviously playing at home, and Michael Thomas comes in and he seems to be a targets machine. It's only a matter of time before he finds the end zone, I hope.
Agreed. No. Right,
So that's what I'm betting on. On the other side, we've seen You Are Gold do reasonably well for the first couple of weeks. I don't think that they're going to slow down this week, I have to say, for the same reasons Metcalf's going to be all right. We talked about AJ Brown earlier on, needing a bit of a get-right game. Wilson against Miami is an interesting start for me. I think that he's bet on a shootout down there. I think Denver might get rolled.
They could. Yeah.
I think Denver might get completely rolled down.
Great. I mean, they lost to the Raiders, which you already said. I believe they were at home against the Raiders.
Yeah, they were. They were trash.
They just lost against the Commanders at home as well. And they were quite lucky to even be close in that game near the end because it involved a Hail Mary. So, no, I think you're right.
I'm not so sure about that one. So, Connor against Dallas. And then, Pollard have a great day. I think Addison will have a good day as well. But Cousins on the other side. That's not completely tactical thinking on my part, but somewhat. And then Steelers do came off a great week last week. Playing the Raiders, they are away this time, so it's kind of a less of an advantage, I would say. But they are still a great unit, and they should still do very well. But not as good as my team. And I'm going to back it again for the 3rd week straight. Hopefully, someone doesn't score triple-digit points against me.
I was getting the lock jingle ready there, as I thought you were going to go that direction.
No. I'm not that bold. This year has taught me anything that you can put together a reasonably solid team, but you can still get done.
I kind of want to say that you are going to step back and take a complete L here, but like you say, in the skill positions, there is actually some things to like. Connor's probably going to get volume unless it becomes a complete blowout. He should still be on the field. Brown's got the squiggle. The one I would maybe worry about is Metcalf because he's got this rib injury. And again, if they get up big against Carolina, they might just sit him down and let him rest. So risk him. And then, it's a complete coin flip with Wilson if he has a good day or not for me. Whereas your team, I think it's solid. You've been so hard done by to begin with. I think it's an easy pick for me this week as well. Injury-wise, Ayuk was obviously inactive last night with a shoulder injury, as I said. Anthony Richardson has already been ruled out with a concussion. On your gold side, just DK Metcalf with those ribs, but he's almost certainly going to play there. So we'll go on to our last game of the week then, which is in the Southampton division as well. Tom Sirens face off against Pakistan. Pakistan, one of the other 2-0 teams, and Tom Sirens just coming off their first win as well. It may not continue as Pakistan's projected to have a 100-point to 80-point victory here, and already has 12 points on the board, courtesy of Jake Moody. In terms of lineup changes, so we'll start with Pakistan. Dak Prescott comes from the waiver into the starting lineup. for Jared Goffey had last week, didn't he? Yep. And then in terms of other lineup changes, Najee Harris comes in favour of Zay Flowers, so he is rolling the 30 personnel this week. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, let's see, no changes, and they haven't put their defense in as well, so their prediction will go up, but it will still be projected loss. It will probably be the Jags versus Houston would be my guess. So Tom is still rolling with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Tom's Tyrants are 5-5. It's an even series against Palestine.
This could be the spicy one, Nath. This could be the spicy one. Now, I'm going to save my lock till last because I think that the Gypsy King Pat this year, so far, has got an excellent team this week. I've got no doubt.
Just for this week.
Just for this week. Might just be for this week, but he's brought in Dak Prescott, so playing Arizona. I don't know whether or not that is going to be an inspired decision or not. From my perspective, obviously, who was a Dak Prescott owner at the beginning of the week, I think that the defense and Tony Pollard's going to do the job. But there is a world where Dak has to throw a lot, or at least gets let off the leash a little bit.
Yeah.
Jefferson and Olave should be in plus offensive matchups there. I think Jefferson versus the Chargers is like an A1. Absolute A1.
This could be a blowout game.
For sure. And the same with Kelly and Harris. I think Najee Harris hasn't started overly well, but then they've had pretty difficult matchups in terms of for running backs the last couple of weeks. Against Vegas, I think that's a much better start for him. And Kenneth Walker playing Carolina at home is good too. Ravens D plus, but Indy is A++++ with a backup QB this week. Yeah. Then on the other side, we got banged up Burrow. Keenan Allen in a good matchup with Garrett Wilson not in such a good one. Drake London's been, say, completely boo or bust depending on how Desmond Ridder's been playing. I think he's going to see an awful lot of Aiden Hutchinson this week. Yeah. So that's not going to be necessarily good for him, and we know that they're so run first. But Cook and Robinson, they're playing one another. I think if there's a game that Robinson may get slowed down, it may be this one.
Yeah.
And then
right,
defensively, if you say the Jags are coming in, the Jags versus the Texans are coming in. Well, the Texans have been playing all right this year. They've been playing from behind, but they've been playing all right. So I'm going to lock Pat Stan this week. I'm well in on his team, despite the fact that they are this year's Gypsy Kings so far. But 2-0 says everything you need to know, and I think they're only going to get better as the course of the season.
Yeah, if my lock wasn't with Bedednes, it would be joining you with Pat Stan this week. We obviously saw Tom have a much, much better week last week. I'm still not fully convinced, just looking at how things shake up this week, like you say. I still don't know if Burrow's going to play. He's obviously not got backup quarterback at the moment. There probably will be an option he can go to on the free agency, but it's not going to be a world-beating option, obviously. And then Keenan Allen's obviously nice, as you said. It's going to be a shootout, that one, probably. But then beyond that, like you say, Wilson could get erased. He's had a fluky good start to the year. I think it's fair to say he's a brilliant receiver and he's obviously overcoming Zach Wilson. But if there's any game where that's not going to happen, it's against New England, as you say. Drake London got a bit of the squeaky roll treatment last week. I think, as you say, they are so run heavy, so that could go back. James Cook, he's all about yardage. He still hasn't scored a touchdown. It's a fairly good matchup, so we could still have a good day. But like you say, Brian Robinson's on the other side there, and we just saw the Bills completely erase Josh Jacobs. So what does that mean for Robinson? Tricky. And like you say about the Texans, Texans as well. I don't think CJ Stroud has thrown an interception yet.
He's been very clean,
airing it out, and they've not had a lot of healthy offensive lines. And I think they're down to their 4th string in some cases.
It's all over the place. But
what would you say? Yeah, for Palestine, just solid. They've been good so far. Obviously, week 1 was a bit spotty, but has some nice matchups this week. So
I would love to see Tom go completely mad this week if Barry doesn't play, and just go, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to play Jordan Love.
Saints.
He could. Or go absolutely crazy and go
CJ Stroud against the diva. Oh, you love a
stack
against your own defense.
Stack against your own defense. Everybody wins.
It's good.
Everybody wins.
It's good. So that brings us to the end of the preview. So thank you for watching the show. It's been a little bit quicker than the normal one. Obviously, we're trying to do the condensed formats now. So I hope you still enjoyed it. So thank you for joining as well, Chris.
Good to be here.
Yeah, in person as well. Especially, I do appreciate you making the wander over. So if you want to watch the games at mine on Sunday, you're welcome to do so. Just give me a shout if you're planning coming over and doing that. Otherwise, have a good weekend. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye, everybody.
Arrivederci.